I'm here with Kristin Weitzel, the lady behind Warrior Woman Mode, a nutritionist, a breathwork expert, and an all-around fitness guru. And she's with us here to talk about the female perspective when it comes to the current situation that we're in and the practices and habits that women can take advantage of to come out stronger rather than weaker, perhaps. So over to you. What are the main things that you're seeing at the moment, and what are the insights?
Yeah, thanks so much, Alex. I think a lot of what I'm seeing is that people are having, women specifically, but people in general, are having challenges with how do I stay fit and grounded in my health optimization and my fitness and wellness during the course of this time, right? We're seeing that with lots of different segments in the health sector, but also fitness, because all the gyms are closed, the pools are closed, the parks are closed, anywhere people are getting a chance to kind of get out and do stuff with weights, with bars, etc. That's all sort of shut down, right? There's been this mass appeal and ordering going on online of people trying to get weights and dumbbells and ropes and what can I do and body weight workout. And that's a challenge. It's a really big challenge because not only do you have to have the tools in your house or something you can use or understand biomechanics enough to be able to do that kind of work with body weight, you also, if you have to do it alone, right? We have to do it maybe with your family, maybe with your kids, etc. But you have to do a lot of it alone when you're used to maybe going to work out with a class or in a community. And how do you build that community digitally, or how do you build any kind of motivation when you get up in the morning and in your house and you need to get a workout on, right? So I specifically, what I've been focusing on, I think is really important to share with females, because that's my focus, is that any women that are cycling, so with our menstrual cycle, we have the capability. There's tons of science and research since the 80s. There's hundreds of studies about how we have the capability in certain parts of our cycle to build more muscle mass versus other parts of our cycle. And how we have the capability to, there's more glycogen uptake capability in our muscles in certain times as well, which is just like a nerdy way of saying when we should be eating a little bit more carbohydrate and when we should be taking it down a notch. Mm-hmm. And they correlate. So that makes sense from a physiological state. So yeah, go ahead.
Before we go into the actual tips, I can ask you a question which I've heard many times from different women. What is the advantage to building muscle for a woman? There are a lot of objections to that, right? Yeah, for
sure. I talk a lot about, with my clients at Warrior Woman Mode and with women I meet, there's a stigma, right, about women building muscle, getting bigger, and they don't want to. And that's not really the reality. The reality is that we build muscle. The more muscle we have on our body, the more, as we're walking around with a bit more musculature, the more we burn calories during the course of the day. So I talk a lot with females about, you're not trying to lose weight, you're trying to lose fat. And the best way to lose fat is to build muscle. And so, yes, I'm not necessarily talking about a woman who's bodybuilding in a bikini and high heels in a big competition on stage, but I'm talking about a woman who wants to be, lean and have some muscle definition and look great in a dress, or, whatever she chooses to wear. Mm-hmm. And so that's a really important point of distinction. So thank you for bringing up that point, because that is key. We want to build enough muscle and have some functional capabilities as well as age well. And the muscle's going to hold up our bones and everything else that's going on. So we got to build it up.
Would you say strong is the new sexy, or is that
I mean, I'll take it, sure. Yeah, I'll take it, sure.
Yeah, nice.
Strong is the new sexy, but also, I mean, strong is like part of longevity, right? That's what we're all kind of here for. We're trying to live longer, better. Mm-hmm. And so quite often,
more muscle mass has a longevity effect as well.
More muscle mass has a longevity effect in specific ways around joint health and around deterioration of tissues and things like that. So the predominant piece is like, you want to lift heavy things, right? Because it's going to help your bone density as well. What you're doing is we're creating, much like a lot of the tools we use in the biohacking world, we're creating adaptation. Right? So we want to have a slight amount of stress. It's the minimum effective dose to get the maximum results. Okay. So a slight amount of stress in some way on our muscles in order to be able to have them, our muscles and then our bones, because we're lifting things, right? Our bones are going to take some small bit of impact there. That is going to create a small amount of stress. And that's going to, as we heal and recover from that workout session, we're going to be better, stronger, faster, right? Over time. If you just do one workout, it's fun, but you want to over time have some of this sort of like, even if you're like microdosing fitness, right? Where you're doing little snippets of fitness over the course of the day, which is another piece of the puzzle for, to when we get into tips. But it's all about how do you layer on enough muscle to be able to create longevity and enough muscle to be able to burn more calories so that you can lose the fat that you want.
Nice. Okay, so now we've hopefully sold the idea of a bit of strength training, a bit of muscle building for women. Let's go on to you were talking about the cycles.
Yeah, and so the next piece is, thank you very much for keeping me on track, Alex. The next piece is to talk about what I think is super important, and I wish someone talked to me about when I was 20 years old, because I would have adhered to it more if I knew that science was existing and true and all of that. And it's not something I think we talk a lot about, or we haven't been. We're starting to. There are people, there's some people writing books about it now, and who have been medical professionals with female hormones for 20 plus years now, that are, doctors that are way more skilled in understanding every single nuance of this. But it hasn't been talked about a lot, because I think it's associated with like women and their menstrual cycle, and we just don't talk about that as publicly as we should. Or it's like there had been a bit of a shame about it. There have been whatever various things are like society, but we're talking about it more because women's sexual health is important, and because we found that there is the feasibility to use estrogen and some very other strong hormones we have in our body as our superpower in order to build muscle and stay fit, grow longevity, all of that. So the menstrual cycle has a really powerful impact on everything that we do, right? There's a lot of conversation around the times that our negotiation power is stronger and better, and the times that we should be eating specific things based on how much of these female sex hormones that we have driving what we do on that specific day of our cycle, right? Men, you have this wonderful capability to be evenly hormoned for the most part, compared to women, right? It's a lot of times why the scientific studies aren't done on women, because we are anomalies every single day. It changes a bit, and there's less consistency with our hormone profile. So that's why the science hasn't been done and the research hasn't been done so much on women for a while. It's more and more, it's starting now, because we've been raising our hands saying we need some studies too. But the other piece of the puzzle is, as we started to do all those studies, we've learned that as the female cycle fluctuates, we have the capability to use estrogen as our superpower, I say all the time, but to build muscle.
Okay.
So if I want to simplify this, right, to like try to make it really as simple as possible, on our first day of our period, let's just call that day 1, that is the day that we begin to have an estrogen spike. It probably takes around a couple of days. Recognize every woman's physiology, just like every person's physiology is different. So the average cycle is 28 days, but it could go either way, like a few days to the left or right, higher or lower. And so when you have that initial estrogen spike, day 1, 2, or 3, that's the estrogen you want to capitalize on strength training and heavier, longer workouts, fewer rest days, doing things that have the capability to build muscle, which is going to be mostly strength training activities. That spike is really important, and it's actually more than a spike. It's like a little bit of a curve. It usually lasts 10 to 12 days or so before you hit the back end of the cycle, which is called the luteal phase. And so my suggestion to my clients, and how I try to get people to both eat as a nutritionist and biohack their cycle with strength training, is that they put the really heavy up stuff when it comes to strength training, harder fitness, bigger challenging work in those days after day 1 or 2 of their period.
Okay.
And the interesting thing, Alex, that you may not know about because you're a man, but the interesting thing for women is that most women are like, but I just got my period. I feel like I want to be a little bit more in a cocoon and shy away and have some alone time and all of that. And I think we also have to go with our intuition, right? If you really feel like you want to be a bit more introverted, or you need some space, etc., that's totally acceptable and totally fine. But by day 3 or 4, I'm revving women up to say, look, now is the time. I had a call with some clients this afternoon. It's like, now's the time. You get to the gym, get the work done, or get into your home gym these days, get the work done, get the weights lifted, get some sprint trials on, whatever it might be, where you have any capability, push-ups, burpees, to get that strength training on, because the science says 44% muscle can be built in the first 2 weeks of the cycle. Okay. So it's about 12 days of that estrogen curve. But in 12 days, if I told you that if you chose these 12 days to go to the gym every month, and you will build 44% more muscle in those 12 days than any other day in the gym, when would you go to the gym, Alex, right? So that's the game.
So what you're saying, so most people are phasing their exercise regime based on the principle of like day by day, day on, day off, day on, day off. What you're saying is there are a larger trend of where you should be pushing it and then dropping it down after the 2-week cycle, based on the trigger of the period coming, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I have had people in audiences where I've spoken raise their hand and say, does that mean I can work out for like 12 days in my cycle and then I can just eat ice cream the rest of the time? And like that, the answer to that is no. But, maybe we're deciding to do a bit more cardio in the back half, or maybe we're trying to, put in some more yoga or, lighter activities, et cetera. And it doesn't mean you can't strength train hard on a day that's in the back half of your cycle. It just means the benefit is so much greater, right? You're still going to need a rest day every week. You're still going to need some space and time those first couple of days of your period, but you have this huge opportunity, right? And there's studies upon studies. It's like one leg trained against the other. They're like double blind and fully tested. So it's hundreds of studies that no one is talking about regularly. And so I really love that component of the strength training piece, because when I'm locked up in a house and I have to choose the days, it's a little bit extra motivation for me to get up and get the work done, knowing that my body has that extra.
So one of your main takeaways for our female audience would be aware of these cycles. Definitely, like, by the way, which percentage of women do you find actually track their cycles using an app or using a calendar or something?
I think a lot. I do work with some women that are perimenopausal or postmenopausal, and a woman who's no longer cycling is just going to have, I have other advice for them. I train them like I would train a man through nutrition and fitness. Yeah. But anyone who is has any PMS or who has any challenges with their cycle is usually tracking it on an app. Anyone who's trying to get pregnant is always tracking it on an app because they want to know when they're going to ovulate so that they have the best opportunity. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what the numbers are. I'm sure
more than half.
Yeah, for sure. Tracking on an app. There's so many apps out there. Exactly. Not only so many great apps, you can share with your partner on lots of these apps too. So your partner gets an email and says like, bring flowers or make dinner or take her to a movie, or maybe your partner's another woman and it's like, hey, maybe you guys shouldn't hang out tonight. I don't know.
Space. Yeah. Different bedroom, different rooms in the house, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so step one, definitely track. Step two, when you're feeling destroyed, which has been my experience, with seeing women on their period, they get pretty much destroyed. As soon as you can, push the limit and get your heavier workouts in as soon as you can to capitalize on that hormonal change.
Yeah.
That's one of your main things. So now that we're in this kind of quarantine mode, let's assume no equipment. What are your exercise recommendations for this? You said burpees.
So my exercise recommendations, I think there's a lot. This is a great question, Alex, because there's a lot out there right now. I don't know if you're seeing it as much as I see it in my thread, because the algorithm sends me all this fitness that's on Instagram and Facebook and Zoom. Yeah. And I think what women need to do is find, I think the most important thing is to find a couple components, right? Something that can give you mobility and stretching, and that might be like a yoga or a kin stretch or something that's really about building and maintaining increasing your flexibility in some ways, but also maintaining mobility, maintaining the fluidity of your joints and whatnot. And then something that is like weight bearing. Now the weight bearing, if you don't have weights in the house and you can't get your hands on them, which just make a note that you can be really innovative about, finding friends or people, or lots of gyms are like renting out their dumbbells and they clean them all down and they steam them, and then you go pick them up for, really inexpensively if you just get out and ask.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have any weights, there's plenty of stuff that you can do with body weight workouts. And there are a prevalent, they are so prevalent online right now. I think it's mostly about choosing someone who you really love to watch, because they're probably in a room teaching to a Zoom camera or an IG camera, Instagram, their phone. And you're probably in a room on your own, or maybe with one other person in your family or your kids. And you want someone who's engaging in the same way you would binge a television show, right? Mm-hmm. You want someone who you really are engaged with. And oftentimes for me, I really like to do a little research, like look at someone's programs, dive into them a little bit more online, just to kind of get their background and experience, to make sure I feel like they're going to be not just credible, but they'll be a good coach in the sense of, this is, talking about form, so that you're not getting hurt in the house. Because I think during quarantine, what might happen is that people get super excited. They're like going to do fitness, but there's no one there coaching them that's watching. Okay. So biomechanical form and the way we move our bodies in space, you want someone who can give you some good cues, even if it's a written program and an audio. Some people are doing that they're giving you good cues to just tell you where to put your feet, where to put your hands, how to hold your abs if you need to, or what muscles you're focusing on.
So that's, I think we've got the exercise part covered, and that's been very valuable because we haven't had this much detail so far.
Yeah.
We're on the tail end now, so I wanted to ask you a couple of things, like if you have some key nutritional tips. And I know that there's one thing about the female system which is different from the male system, about fasting.
Yeah.
Which is very trendy at the moment, and the rules. Well, as a man, my rule is just collapse the eating window as much as I can, and I'll be good. You guys have a different perspective on things. So if you could share a bit about your nutritional and fasting thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. Because the things that are on fire, right, are intermittent fasting and OMAD, 1 meal a day. There's a lot of that going around, and people thinking they're more sedentary, which everybody should be finding a way to get outside a little during this quarantine, even if it's not around people, of course, because you need sunlight for your circadian rhythm and everything to function. But when we talk about food, I think and fasting specifically, the longest I tell my female clients to do a fast is about 12 hours. Beyond that, it starts to mess with our hormones.
Really?
Perimenopausal, premenopausal, cycling, it can mess with the hormone profile of a female. So I just try to keep them around that 12-hour window. There's a lot of that, like 15, 16-hour people come to me and they're doing that. I like to get some protein in women's systems. So even if they're very like a bulletproof coffee type of gal, like that they're getting some bulletproof coffee to break that fast, because it has the fat in it and things like that. Mm-hmm. So if they break the fast with bulletproof coffee, then making sure they're getting amino acids, so supplementation. And then at least I know that's in the system for the muscles and the body to feed off of until they decide to have a meal. So I like the 12-hour window. I don't think it hurts if you do, one day of 15 hours, because it happens. But while you're home and you can plan all the meals and you can prep stuff, that seems to be the.
And the 12-hour window applies across the whole hormonal cycle, or changes?
I always recommend 12 hours. I think there are probably moments during the month. It's a great question, and I don't want to. I haven't compared all of the science on it, so I don't want to answer.
Okay. Do your own research, everyone.
Yeah, well, the 100% accuracy, I don't want to answer and say you should do it 15 when I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay. But I know that the 12-hour window it's what works for me and what works for my clients. Yeah, it's a good rule of thumb. And everybody knows their own body, best. And everyone is, certainly I'm a nutritionist, I'm a fitness coach, I'm a breathwork teacher, I have all these capabilities, but I'm not a medical doctor. So everyone who has their own physiology and their own challenges should be able to speak to their doctor and make sure fasting is cleared. But I do think that there's some great research just about fasting in general and how it really helps with our cellular turnover and helping keep us free from disease and all the things that are going out there right now.
Okay, so to wrap up, We covered the exercise side of things, the fasting side of things. If you were to leave our audience with some parting words, be it nutritional or just the most important or valuable idea that you'd like to share, what would that be?
I think to put it all in a little tiny box, if I had to put it in a small box to say, I would say make sure if you're going to only pick one fitness thing to do, find a way to do body weight or some strength building exercises versus cardio. Mm-hmm. I think you need to be eating really clean, making sure that you're getting some sources of protein, whatever the right source of protein is for you, because that will help with your recovery. And no sugar. I'm staying hard away from sugar in the midst of all this because we need to have the strongest immune systems possible. And then the last thing I would say, which we didn't talk a lot about, but I'm sure your other guests will, which is concentrate on spending as much of your day as possible nasal breathing. Nice. So that you're breathing in and out through your nose. And your other guests are going to tell you why. Yeah.
No one mentioned that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your mouth shut.
Keep your mouth shut. It'll save your life. Yeah, but if you put all those things together, you're setting yourself up for success while you're in quarantine, and keep yourself motivated. Everyone out in the world is out here. We're all on our own, and we're all doing our very best. And just know that there's a whole world of people motivating themselves every day, and they all have your back.
Beautiful. Okay, Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Kristin, we will put links to all of your resources in the speaker notes.
Awesome.
And thank you again. Looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great one. Take care, everyone.